I'm Randy with the Outdoor Adventure Program. I'm one of the guides over there, stationed here on JBER. And I've been here since 2011, and what my class is to teach you a little bit about cold weather safety. All right, and why it's important. Cold weather safety is very important in the winter months because it allows you to not just hunker down in your house, waiting out the long, cold winter days, waiting for June to get here where there's 20 hours of daylight and all kinds of things to do. Winter safety can be done very, very easily and safely within your own control so that you can get out and have fun during the winter months. And some things I'm going to talk about are how to prepare your car, how to prepare yourself with the right clothing and boots, and what different types of activities you can do here while being safe and having fun during the winter months so that you're not cooped up and getting cabin fever. Let's talk about what there is to do outside in the winter here in Alaska, especially in Anchorage. Keep in mind too that Anchorage isn't as cold as people may think. It's not the Brooks Range up north. It's not Eielson or even the post up north, Fairbanks. All right, so we're not getting the massive temperature swings that they get up there. We pretty much stay mild for what an Alaska winter would be. So with that being said, there's a lot of things that we can do to break up the boredom and be safe in the outdoors here during the winter months of Alaska in South Central. You've got fat tire biking, you got ice fishing, you got snowshoeing, you got cross country skiing, snow machining, hiking, you got winter camping, and everyone's favorite with the kids, ice skating. Okay, so there's a lot to do and a lot to be done here in Anchorage and South Central Alaska while staying safe during the winter months. One of the main questions I get when doing this brief is, how do I stay warm? Well, the bottom line is you want to stay warm by layering. All right, the layering system is the same for pretty much any outdoor activity, whether it's summer or winter. You may have to tweak your summer wardrobe or your winter wardrobe from your summer wardrobe, and that's expected. That's in any state. That would be in Chicago, Minneapolis, North Dakota, Montana, any cold weather state. You're going to have more likely a summer wardrobe and then a winter wardrobe. To be safe, you don't want to be wearing your same tennis shoes that you would wear in the summer in the winter months. They're just not going to perform the same on icy, slick driveways, pavement, gravel roads, stuff like that. Okay, so think about your layering system as a three-layer layering system that insulates the body, traps that 98.6 degree heat next to you, performing all kinds of different things such as making sure your sweat is evaporating, keeping you dry. You don't want to be wet and cold in the winter months. You want that insulation factor. And then, of course, you want a good hard shell over everything to keep the elements off of your clothing, such as rain, sleet, snow, and ice. So your basic three-layering system starts with your base layer, and that could be anything from a man-made textile, such as polypropylene, or a natural fiber, which would be your merino wool. Both of those are great at wicking moisture, insulating the body, and reducing the sweat factor on you when you're out hiking or mountain biking, fat tire biking, snowshoeing, anything where there's a high level of activity. The middle layer, which is your insulation layer, would consist of puffy jackets, fleece jackets, anything that would be able to have the fiber that traps that warm air next to you and keeps you nice and toasty. Okay, and then of course the last layer is the outer layer or the shell layer, which is kind of like your rain jackets. Those are designed with Gore-Tex. It's a type of membrane that does allow sweat vapor to pass through it, but does not allow the water molecule to penetrate it, so it keeps you warm and dry that way. Keep in mind that the number one way to stay warm in the winter months while being safe outside is to keep dry. That can be kind of hard to do, especially if you're building up a lot of heat doing these activities, such as snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, fat tire biking. You're going to generate a lot of heat and a lot of sweat. So the best way to do that is to wear your layers loosely, okay? And keep in mind that in order to maintain a dryness, you have to be able to ventilate, okay? So basically you don't want to show up wearing one big old puffy suit and expecting that to keep you warm once you start sweating. So have multiple types of layers on you. That way you can unzip, vent them, and let that sweat vapor escape while maintaining a good core body temperature. That is probably the number one way to stay safe when doing outdoor activities. A lot of people forget about what I call the big three when it comes to outdoor activities in the winter. They forget hat, they forget hand coverings such as mittens or gloves, and they forget about eye protection or sunglasses. Believe it or not, it's still very bright here in the winter, even with the low sunrises that we have. The sun is actually harder on your eyes in the winter here than in most states in the lower 48 because the sun is at such a low arc on the horizon that you're actually looking into the sun versus it being up above you where you can shade it with like a ball cap brim or something. So it is important to have a good set of sunglasses on you or with you while you're doing these outdoor activities during the daylight hours, which I understand is minimal here in Alaska in the winter, but they still come in very handy to reduce the glare, especially while driving after a fresh snowstorm or during icy conditions, or if you were out there fat tire biking or cross-country skiing, getting that glare coming off the snow. A hat will trap in a lot of heat in your head. You lose approximately 75 to 85% of your heat from your head. So the old analogy is if you feel cold, put a hat on. And that still holds true today. There's nothing wrong with a good wool hat, always in your pack. Make sure you can break it out at any time just to knock off that chill. And then make sure your hands are covered too. A lot of people want to forget about mittens or gloves when they're out doing activities, and those are very important also for the safety aspect of being outdoors in the winter. Not only do they prevent cold weather injuries, but they just make you feel warmer doing an activity. All right, let's talk a little bit about boots and or socks. Your socks should not be the same in the winter as they are in the summer. They just won't perform the same. Your summer socks are going to be thinner. They're going to wick the moisture away just like your winter socks would, but your winter socks are going to be thicker. And they're going to be able to trap that heat in and hold it next to your toes and keep your feet warm. Also, the boots or the shoes that you wear should be specifically made for winter conditions. Much like the tires on your car or your vehicle, they should be for winter driving. Your shoes should be that way too. The problem with your general summer hiking boots is once the temperature gets below 30 degrees, the rubber compound on the hiking boots that you wear for the summer get as hard as a brick. So it would be equivalent to walking on a frozen trail with these real slick surfaces on the bottom of your feet, not gripping at all, becoming very unsafe. So you really want to look at your winter hiking boots. Most of your outdoor stores carry them, and they have a different type of compound on the bottom of the sole that stays pliable during cold conditions, and so they're able to flex under your weight and grip the trail or the road or whatever thing you're walking on at that time, whether it's a parking lot into Walmart or walking from work to the car. Those boots will be able to grip and provide a much safer experience than just walking out in tennis shoes or summer type of boots. So let's talk a little bit about preparing your car. I know a lot of people come up from the lower 48 in June, July, and August. They PC us up here, don't really think about it. They got 20 hours of daylight coming in. Your car might not be prepared for the deep freeze of South Central Alaska, and there's things to consider, all right? First of all, you got the right viscosity of oil in it. Do you need to put a thinner oil in it recommended by the manufacturer? What about the antifreeze? Is the antifreeze good down to, let's say negative 45 versus, if you bought the car in Georgia or Texas or San Diego? Those cars aren't going to be prepared for that extreme cold that you would need in the antifreeze system. Make sure you clean the snow and ice off of your windshield. There is nothing worse than seeing someone driving on the Glen that scraped it away with basically a CD cover, and they've got a 6x6 hole that they're looking through, thinking that this is going to defrost as they go. That is super dangerous to you and to others. And keep in mind, too, that while you are driving your vehicle in the winter in South Central Alaska, you owe a certain level of responsibility to other drivers to make sure that you're safe so that you do not hurt or injure anyone else. Don't forget to prepare your car in different ways other than the ones I just talked about. You want to keep gas at least a half a tank in your gas at all times. If your gas gets too low, there's condensation that can build up in the gas tank, and then that can freeze in your gas lines. Also, use a wintertime formula of windshield washer fluid. Don't just put in your basic summer-winter windshield washer fluid. Get something that's rated for like 60 below or 45 below. Even though it doesn't get that cold here in Anchorage, Alaska, you still want to have that insurance so that you can get that snow and ice buildup off your windshield. Also, we get sometimes during this December months, we get a little bit of a warming spell in South Central Alaska. We'll get what's called the Pineapple Express, where this warm Pacific air blows up through up from Hawaii into Alaska, comes up the Gulf of Alaska, hits Anchorage, and we get a little bit of a thawing process in the middle of December, believe it or not. Temperatures can get up to like 36, 38 degrees for a few days. And then suddenly what happens to all that snowfall that happened in November and early December, that starts to turn to slush. So that's going to build up on your windshield also. So you're going to have to really make sure you have a lot of good, hardcore windshield washer fluid in your vehicle at all times. Tire pressure and tire depth, make sure you're checking those. Those go a long way in making sure that you're safe on the road. Let's talk a little bit about to stud or not to stud your tires. There's a couple of different views out there. Some people swear by studs. Some other people say, I've lived in Alaska 25 years and never studded my car with studded tires. I personally have been here since 2011. I have ridden on both studded tires and non-studded tires, and I will tell you that I feel that studded tires have a much better grip on the ice. Now, does that mean that you can drive your car, 65, 70 miles an hour inside the city limits, hitting every stoplight at 45, 50 miles an hour and be able to stop on a dime? No. But what that studded tire does give you, it gives you a little bit of stopping power so that if someone was to run a red light due to not being able to stop, you're able to stop and be more prepared and more safe in your vehicle. It's not designed to accelerate you or make you go faster. It's designed so that you have more control of your vehicle in wintertime conditions. So, with that being said, the bottom line is you want to have the right tire for winter, and I'll get more into tires here in a little bit. Let's talk about maybe having some type of emergency kit in your car. Now, unless you're driving extensively long ranges here in South Central Alaska, you probably don't need a massive emergency kit in your car. Most of you are going to have cell phone range, but let's just use an example. You're traveling from Wasilla to Anchorage for work. There's a big pile up or something on the Glen. It's 6:30 in the morning. It's 10 degrees below zero. You end up taking the ditch to avoid a rear end collision. Now your car's sitting in the ditch. You can't start it because the muffler might be packed in with snow or something like that. And you're trying to, figure out how you're going to stay warm without a running car. So what I suggest is you have some type of small little emergency or contingency bag packed in your vehicle. It can have wintertime boots such as sorrels. Those are great to keep your feet warm, rated down to like negative 45, negative 60 degrees. Things that you want to keep in there would be like a couple of wool blankets, some emergency rations, things like crackers, chocolate, trail mix, things with high energy that really get your system burning calories so that they can generate heat within you. Also, keep in extra clothing. Keep in an extra pair of wool mittens, an extra wool hat, extra wool socks. All this stuff should be in that contingency bag. Flashlight, maybe a battery-powered radio or a crank radio that you can turn on and listen to any emergency situations going on. A good first aid kit. Traction devices like the cleats that go on the back or on the bottom of your boots, you're going to want to keep those in there, because if you do have to get out and maybe walk a mile or two because some reason, you're going to want traction devices. You are not going to be able to walk on the side of the road with all that slush and ice and snow buildup very, very easily. So keep a pair of traction devices in your car at all times throughout the winter. Also, a good solid ice scraper with a big brush on it. Make sure it can extend if you have a longer or a taller vehicle. Really be able to clean all those windows off if you need to. Other than that, the list is pretty much endless, and you can tailor it to your specific needs and your family's needs. But the bottom line is, with a contingency bag or an emergency bag, is just to be prepared to have the right stuff in it for the conditions that you're facing. Once springtime gets here, May, June timeframe, take that bag out, put it away, and have it ready for next season when the winter hits. Make sure that you change out your wipers, I would say every 6 months. The wipers that you use in the summer are not going to be the same that you want to use in the winter. Basically what happens in the summertime with all this hot and this heat and the amount of daylight that we get, you get these microscopic little cracks in the rubber compound of your windshield wipers. Well, that's not going to do you any good when they're smearing across your windshield during winter months. So change your windshield wipers prior to winter setting in. That's just being a safe, responsible driver. Also, don't rely on AAA or USAA to come and get you out of a stuck situation. You have to be resilient and rely on yourself to be able to get yourself out of a stuck condition. Does that mean that you need to go out and buy a $60,000 Ford F-250 and put winches on it and everything? Of course not. But what you should have is a good system so that if you need to contact someone or if you have to wait in your car for an extended period of time, that you're prepared and that you're self-reliant. Okay? That's all that we're saying here. All season versus winter tires. So basically your all season tires are what comes on most vehicles, whether you're buying in San Diego or in Seattle, Washington. Most manufacturers put all-season tires on. It's a great all-round tire compound, great gas mileage, pretty good traction in rain, maybe light snow, some light gravel. But the bottom line with all-season tires are they're not designed for hard, cold conditions of South Central Alaska. They're just not safe to drive on. What happens to the compound in all-season tires is they get cold, just like the hiking boots I talked about earlier. That compound freezes on the tires. The tires really become rolling, round, hard bricks, and it's very hard to accelerate, very hard to stop, and very hard to turn when your tires are literally frozen because of the rubber compound that's in that makeup of that tire. So your winter tires have a basically totally different compound injected into them. Okay, it's a rubber compound that has more silicone in it so that it stays softer during the cold months. When you have a softer tire, it's able to flex and grip on the different types of terrain that you may be driving on, whether it's ice, snow, rock, hard pavement. That tire is going to generally stay softer and pliable so that it can grip as you accelerate or you turn or you brake. I'm not saying that you need to go out and buy winter tires specifically for Alaska's winters, but it's a great idea. It's a safety factor for you and your family, and it also will make sure that you're driving in a safe manner for other people so you don't hurt someone else. The bottom line with driving in Alaska is you need to slow down and you need to plan more time. If it takes you 60 minutes to get somewhere in June, it's going to double or a third of that more in the winter. So plan on 90 minutes in the winter. Why? Because it's darker. People drive slower just in dark conditions. It's just a natural thing that we do as humans. Also, you're going to have people that are going to be speeding, slowing, speeding, slowing, speeding, slowing. That's going to create the rubber band effect on the highway. With that being said, you're just going to use more time to get somewhere in the winter. So plan for more time. Do not rush anything. Stay alert. People have a real bad tendency to text and drive on the highway or in the city, and the bottom line is once they look down, look up, and then it happens within a second. Okay, so stay alert. Always expect something to happen on your commute or in your driving. Moose can walk right out in front of you. You're not going to see them. They're dark. It's dark, and before you know it, you're slamming into a 1,500-pound moose on the highway. Not a real good day. Stay calm. Sometimes other drivers will get frustrated with their commute or with their timeline. Just stay calm. If someone is, changing lanes a lot, just back away from them. The bottom line is you want to stay safe for you. Keep a safe distance between cars. Increase that following distance, okay? And I understand. I got it. If you have a safe following distance too much and then a car gets in front of you, then you got to back up, then another car gets in front of you, then before you know it, you're 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and your commute has now just become longer. However, it is better to arrive safe and unhurt than to press it. Keep your car well maintained and in good working order. Accelerate and de-accelerate slowly, all right? Jamming your brakes on or accelerating on the gas pedal in icy, snowy conditions here in South Central Alaska is not a good idea. The bottom line is once the snow starts falling, we are literally driving on packed snow and ice all winter long. You very rarely get a good, clean, paved road to drive on. It's got some type of ice buildup on it, and that's just what we drive on here in South Central Alaska. So in order to stay safe with that, make sure you're accelerating and deaccelerating slowly, and do not try to be in a hurry. We talked about wearing the proper clothing, having the proper boots, covering your head, wearing sunglasses if you need to, maintaining your car, make sure that you got a contingency bag, change out your tires if you need to, have brand new windshield wipers at the start of every winter season, making sure you got the right oil viscosity, make sure you got all the fluids topped off and they are rated for that type of cold condition. If you are going out and doing some of these outdoor activities, hiking, camping, winter fat tire biking, make sure you're telling someone too. Even if you're a single airman or a single soldier, and let your buddy know or your first line supervisor know, that's a really good idea. All right, things happen in the backcountry. Things happen on a trail in Anchorage, Alaska, and before you know it, it's 3:30 in the afternoon. It's getting dark. Maybe you've run out of food, run out of water, and you need to get back, and some things just happen and go south. So make sure you're always letting someone know, or better yet, go with a buddy and have a good time. Make sure you're eating enough high-calorie, warm foods when you're out there doing all those exercises. You cannot believe how many calories you burn snowshoeing or cross-country skiing or even fat tire biking, all right? Make sure you're putting those calories back in, keeping that energy level up so you got enough energy to get back home, okay? Some good stuff to know about being safe in the winter months here in Alaska. Bring those hands out of your pockets. And what I mean by that is I see a lot of people get out of their car and they're going to walk from their car to Target. First thing they want to do is they want to put their hands in their pockets. I highly discourage that. Why? Because the human body is not designed to walk on hard, slippery, icy conditions with your hands in your pocket. You really need to have those hands out of your pocket for balance so that you're safe. And don't remove the gloves or mittens. If you were to take a fall, yeah, sure, your gloves might get a little wet or your mittens might get a little wet, but that extra cushion on your hands is really going to help you from scuffing up or tearing up your skin on your hands. So make sure that you're protected. Just walking from your car to a department store can be, a life-altering event, so to speak. Let's talk a little bit about mittens versus gloves. That's a personal thing. I carry both in my backpack when I'm out. Gloves are great for dexterity. When I'm riding my fat tire bike, I can change gears really quick. If I need to operate a tool or something, gloves are it. But really, you cannot beat a good pair of wool mittens for warmth, comfort, and just overall safety when you're out and hiking or backpacking or camping in Alaska in the winter. Warm up before shoveling. If you have to shovel your driveway, going into a high level, high stress, high exertion activity without warming up, that can lead to some injuries, all right? Back injuries, arms, shoulder fatigue, stuff like that. So make sure you kind of do a little bit of warm up before you start, really dousing and getting after it in the 18 inches of snow that we had overnight on your driveway. And warm up your vehicle before driving off. There's a lot to be said about that. Make sure your windows are completely clear, front, back, side. You're going to want to have a good 360-degree visibility around you at any given time. So make sure that your car's warmed up. Plan enough time for that. Auto start is a phenomenal way to do that. Make sure that you warm up the vehicle not in a closed garage. I know that sounds like common sense, but you would not believe how many people do that, all right? So just vent your garage if you need to, crack the garage door when you're warming up your vehicle, get that vehicle all nice and toasty, and before you know it, you're on your way to work or to wherever you need to go. So did you know that exertion or cold weather puts a serious strain on your heart, even without you knowing it? And it really doesn't matter your age. Whether you're 20 or 80, you still have a lot of strain going on that heart trying to shovel this wet, heavy snowfall that we just got. You're in a hurry to get the driveway cleared, all right? So be careful when shoveling or pushing a car out of a ditch or any other exertion, okay? You really want to make sure that you're doing it safe and you're doing it right. Regardless of your age and your physical condition, really try to avoid that overexertion, that real hard-packed overexertion in the winter months, okay, just to be safe. Like I said, a lot of people want to clear that snowfall right away out of their driveway after it's happened, and they try to do it real fast, and before you know it, you're suffering from some type of muscle pull, or it could even be a mild heart attack. Okay. Look, let's talk a little bit about cold weather injuries. I don't go into this in great depth because I cover this in my winter camping and winter backpacking classes. But basically, cold weather injuries are just prolonged exposure to freezing or cold temperatures. They can happen to anyone at any age. And the bottom line is to prevent them, you want to stay in the right clothing system. You want to make sure that you're eating the right foods when you're out exercising or doing backpacking, camping, hiking, stuff like that. Just making sure that you are fully protected in the cold winter months of Alaska. So let's talk a little bit about ice thickness. This happens every year around this time. We start getting the fever to go out and play in the winter months. Guys are firing up their snow machines, doing some ice fishing. You really want to make sure that you know what the ice thickness is, okay? If it's 2 inches or less, you want to stay off of that. That's all there is to it. If you can throw a rock on the ice and it breaks through there, then that is no good for your body weight as a human. 4 inches is where you're getting at for right around the minimum inch for ice fishing or being on. 5 inches is where you want to be for snow machining or snowmobiling. 8 to 12 inches, small car, pickup truck can be on that. And then 12 to 15 inches, you got your medium and large trucks. Just make sure you know what the ice thickness is before you go out there. And you know what? Seeing someone else out there is not a good indicator of the ice thickness because they might not know what it is and just drove out there or walked out there. So really you need to know what the ice thickness is before you start heading out there on that ice for ice fishing or for ice skating or something like that. Pets in the cold weather. All right, so we got our little buddy coming up from Houston, Texas, Key West, Florida, some warm climates. I know both of the dogs I brought up here, we got in Georgia, and they just weren't very acclimated to the cold the first couple seasons that we were up here. Make sure you're really watching out for your little buddy. You want to provide a warm shelter for them. And keep in mind, too, that if they are 99 or 100% indoor animals or indoor dogs, taking them out is just like taking you out into the cold. All right, they're going to feel it. They're going to come from a nice 68 or 70 degree warm house all the time, and then you're going to stick them out in 10 degrees, 0, 10 below, and you think you're going to go out there and hike with them and everything. They're going to get cold weather injuries also. Most indoor dogs have softer paws on softer pads on their paws, and they're just not used to that harsh, cold ground. So it is very common that dogs can get cold weather injuries on their paws also. Dog booties are a great way. If you have an indoor dog, put dog booties on them, and that will definitely help them protect their paws from any type of injury. A lot of people in the neighborhoods don't use pet-friendly salt because they might not have pets, but they're putting salt down, which then washes down their driveway, and then you're walking your animal or your dog on the side, and they can pick up that salt, which is a compound that can burn the skin of both humans and pets. So make sure that you're checking their paws after each walk if you don't put paw pads on them or paw protectors so that they don't get that salt embedded in their paws and in their fur in their paws. And then recognize signs of trouble. If your pet is whining, shivering, anxious, or slows down a lot during a hike or outside or doing an outdoor activity, your pet is at risk for hyperthermia, and that's a real thing for pets. So everyone thinks, well, most dogs have a core body temperature 4 to 5 degrees higher than ours, and they're always panting, and my dog, but believe it or not, pets can go into hyperthermia also. So just make sure you understand the signs and symptoms of your pet's hyperthermia. So in closing, I just want everyone to understand that getting outside in Alaska can be done, all right? It's not designed to have you sit in your house all winter long, all cooped up, bored, getting fat, watching Netflix, okay? The bottom line is you can have a safe, fun adventure in Alaska with the Outdoor Adventure Program and myself. I, for instance, guide all the Fat Tire biking trips. I'm one of the main guides for the snow machine trips that we do. I teach and instruct cross-country skiing. I also give free classes on winter camping and winter hiking, which is a phenomenal way to see Alaska. Why is it phenomenal in the winter? Well, first of all, there's no mosquitoes. all the bears are in hibernation, all the tourists are gone, and all the vegetation is pretty much down. So hiking the same trail that you did in June and hiking it again in January is going to be a totally different experience for you, one that you will love and enjoy and have tons of memories from. If at any time you have any questions about anything that you want to do outside in the winter, contact me at the Outdoor Adventure Program or any of the other guides that work there, and we will be more than happy to sit down and talk to you about specific details and what we can offer to keep you unbored or not bored in Alaska in the winter.